Ёбаный в рот, ну чё скажете, пацаны, где мы нахуй? В трубе, сука!
The dark, claustrophobic, rusty corridor you see before you is the setting for one of the most desperate and deadly gambles in modern warfare. Unable to capture Ukraine's eastern stronghold of Kupyansk by air, land or river, Russia decided it had only one option left: to go underground. Miles below the pitch-black waters of the Oskil River, kilometres of industrial waste and pipeline tunnels would become a secret highway for Putin's elite soldiers. The plan was brilliant on paper, but in practice, it was a complete fiasco. They tried to conquer the city from within by squeezing their soldiers, heavy ammunition, and even electric scooters into these narrow pipes. But there was one thing they didn't know. The Ukrainian army had already detected this molehill. They didn't seal the entrances. They didn't stop them. They just waited. They waited for the tunnels to fill with people, for retreat to become impossible. And when that moment came, Ukraine's Achilles battalion turned this underground highway into a death trap. When we delve into the technical details of this operation, the picture that emerges is less that of military genius and more that of the architecture of desperation. The route Russia used to infiltrate Kupyansk is not a simple tunnel system. We are talking about an abandoned industrial pipeline network, approximately 15 kilometers long, running under the Oskil River. This infrastructure, dating back to the Soviet era, was not designed for human passage. Its diameter was narrow and it had no ventilation. However, Russian commanders forced their soldiers into these dark tunnels to cover up their failures on the surface. The physical conditions of the tunnel made it clear from the outset how risky the operation was. According to reports by United 24 media, Russian troops resorted to an incredible method to cover this 15-kilometer distance faster: electric scooters. Yes, you heard that right. Russian soldiers, equipped with modern warfare gear, were using scooters to move silently through a narrow pipe, meters below ground. This image is the clearest proof of how pathetic the Russian army's logistical capacity has become. With toys. A superpower, unable to get its tanks across the river, was sending its soldiers underground. However, things were not left to chance on the Ukrainian side. The Achilles Brigade, which commanded the Kupyansk defense, had detected this movement months in advance. Brigade Commander Anton Shmihal and his intelligence team laid out old industrial maps and city plans of the area. They knew which entry point the Russians would use. They knew where each pipe led. They created a digital twin of the tunnel network. This was more than just setting up a line of defense, it was preparing a hunting ground. When Russian soldiers entered the tunnels, they were actually entering a simulation prepared for them by Ukraine. Ukraine's intervention plan was based on a wait and destroy strategy. They did not detonate the entrances immediately. They waited for the Russian convoy to reach the deepest point of the tunnel, the point of no return. At that very moment, the Achilles Brigade's heavy load drones took off. Carrying specially made bombs weighing 33 pounds, or about 15 kilograms each, these drones targeted weak points in the pipelines under the Oskil River. The explosions were carried out with surgical precision. The pipes cracked, and the river's icy water began to pour into the tunnels under high pressure. There was no escape for the 40-person Russian advance unit inside. Behind them was water. In front of them were closed doors. These explosions did not just cause flooding. Methane gas and industrial waste that had accumulated in the tunnels, which had been closed for years, were released by the force of the explosion. The tunnel instantly turned into a massive gas chamber. When those who managed to survive ran towards the exits as the water rose, what awaited them was not freedom. The Ukrainian 7th Corps was lying in wait at all designated exit points. Every Russian soldier who poked their head out of the tunnel entrance was instantly neutralized by snipers with thermal cameras and FPV drones. This was not a battle. This was a technically flawlessly planned extermination operation. Let's put tactical success aside and focus on the hell inside those pipes. We are talking about a situation that pushes the limits of human psychology. Images examined by the Washington Post confirm that the tunnels are literally experiencing a biological blockage. The bodies of dead soldiers, known in military jargon as Cargo 200, cover the floor of the tunnel. Reinforcements coming from behind are forced to crawl over the bodies of their dead comrades in order to advance. This is not only a physical obstacle, but also the peak of a moral collapse. Imagine going into an operation by stepping over the corpse of your own comrade in arms. The atmosphere inside the tunnel was no longer breathable. Gunpowder gas, the stench of decaying bodies, industrial waste, and river water were all mixed together. According to reports by United 24 Media, the few Russian soldiers who were rescued or captured from the tunnel showed signs of severe chemical poisoning rather than bullet wounds. Their lungs were burned, their eyes blinded by gas, and they had completely lost their sense of direction. These soldiers were not fighting, they were merely struggling to survive. This plan, dubbed Operation Current by Russian commanders, had turned into a burial project that buried their own soldiers alive. What was even more terrifying was that this tactic was not being tried for the first time. A similar tunnel strategy had been tried before on the Kursk front and had ended in the same disaster. Radio communications recorded at the time documented the mental breakdown of the soldiers trapped in the tunnel. The soldiers, who had lost their minds, rather than waiting to drown or burn to death, put their own guns to their temples and pulled the trigger. The same scenario played out in the Kupyansk tunnels. The gunshots echoing inside the metal pipes were not aimed at the enemy, but at their own helplessness. This may not have been a war crime, but it was the greatest betrayal committed against one's own soldiers. The statistics confront us with this savagery in cold, ruthless mathematics. According to data published by the independent newspaper, the casualty ratio on the Kupyansk front reached an unimaginable level, 27-1. In this tunnel adventure, Russia sacrificed 27 soldiers for every single Ukrainian soldier it managed to kill. This ratio is not a sustainable casualty rate in modern warfare literature. This is a massacre. This imbalance, rarely seen even in the bloodiest trench warfare of World War I, proves that the Russian command values human life at zero. On the Ukrainian side, the situation has turned into a mole hunt, as described by Maxim Holubok, Chief of Staff of the Katyr Brigade. Ukrainian soldiers have a sledgehammer in their hands and are crushing any Russian unit that sticks its head out of the tunnel entrance. With 90% of the city under Ukrainian control, Russia's strategy has regressed to the absurd point of sneaking soldiers into the tunnels and making them hide until they are found and killed. These ghost soldiers, trembling in basements and under staircases, with depleted ammunition and severed communication, know they cannot take Kupyansk. All they await is the end. So why is Putin so insistent? Why is he sending thousands of his soldiers to this claustrophobic hell, knowingly to their deaths? The answer to this question lies beyond simple territorial gains, hidden in the Kremlin's final gamble on the table. Kupyansk is not just a dot on the map, it is the logistical heart where Russia's main railway line from the Belgorod border connects to the Donbass front in eastern Ukraine. Cutting or controlling this artery changes the entire logistical flow of the war. Putin's grand plan was as much diplomatic as it was military. Moscow aimed to seize Kupyansk at any cost, even if it meant going underground, and use this city as a bargaining chip in upcoming peace talks. The plan was this. When sitting at the table, he would say, "Look, I'm at the gates of Kharkiv, and Kupyansk is in my hands. If you officially recognize my gains in Donbass, I will give Kupyansk back to you." In other words, Putin was actually trying to create diplomatic leverage, not a military victory. Militarily, the fall of Kupyansk would mean stabbing Ukraine's Donbass defense in the back. Ukraine's last strongholds in the east, such as Sloviansk and Kramatorsk, would be at risk of being surrounded by Russian troops advancing from the north. By taking Kupyansk, Russia would cut Ukraine's supply lines and improve its own logistics. This was a strategic strangulation move designed to suffocate the Ukrainian army. However, with the collapse of the tunnels, this pincer plan also fell through. The decay within the Kremlin was once again exposed by the failure of this operation. According to reports by the Institute for the Study of War, ISW, Russian commander Colonel General Kuzovlev clearly lied in the reports he submitted to Defense Minister Belousov. Kuzovlev painted a false picture of success, saying, "We have captured the settlements around Kupyansk, the encirclement is complete," while the tunnels were underwater and soldiers were drowning. Fearing Putin's wrath, Generals are tampering with maps to cover up the disaster on the ground. The Kremlin is basing its strategy on the lies of its own generals. The reality is this: Russia does not control Kupyansk. There is no control in the city. Only lies and losses exist. This tunnel fiasco has cornered Putin so badly that Moscow has now turned to Europe in desperation. According to the Moscow Times, Putin has been sending messages in recent days saying, "We are ready to normalize relations." He is trying to win back the war he lost on the battlefield at the negotiating table by winking at leaders like Italian Prime Minister Meloni. However, this is not a call for peace, but an admission of desperation. It means, "I can't win militarily, let's talk." But the heavy stench of death rising from the Kupyansk tunnels cannot be covered up by these diplomatic maneuvers. Putin's biggest bargaining chip has been buried at the bottom of the Oskil River. What happened in Kupyansk will not go down in history as merely a failed infiltration attempt. This event marks the moment when the myth of the world's second-largest army collapsed inside a rusty pipe. A superpower that once claimed to have shaken Europe with its tanks is now forced to hide in sewer pipes, commit suicide on electric scooters, and crawl over the bodies of its own soldiers just to capture a city. This is not strategic genius, it is doctrinal bankruptcy. Russia believed it could win by burying its soldiers underground. But they forgot a simple truth: the underground is only for the dead. Kupyansk still stands. The Oskil River still flows, and those tunnels have become dark coffins sealing Russia's imperial dreams. Russia didn't just lose a battle in Kupyansk, it left the honor of its army in those pipes, under the water. So, what do you think about this? Please share your thoughts in the comments. To stay informed about PPR Global's special analyses, please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to turn on notifications. Thank you for choosing us.